Imagine two people staring at the exact same $500. One person sees a bill that needs to be paid. The other person sees a seed that needs to be planted. Same amount of money, same green paper, same numbers on a screen. But in their minds, that $500 is not the same thing at all. And here's the strange part. This isn't about how much money either of these people has right now. It's about something happening quietly inside their heads, a kind of mental software running in the background, deciding what money even means to them. Most people spend their whole lives trying to get more money, thinking that more money is the answer. But the truth is a little more uncomfortable than that. The amount of money in your bank account is often just a result. The real starting point is something invisible. It's the way you think about money before you even earn it. And once you understand how differently wealthy people actually see money, compared to how most people are taught to see it, you start to realize something. Getting rich was never really about the money. It was about the thinking that came before it. Let's break this down. Here's the story most of us grow up believing, whether someone said it directly or we just absorbed it from watching the adults around us. Money is earned through hard work. You get a job, you trade your hours for a paycheck, you pay your bills, and if there's anything left over, that's your reward for surviving the month. Saving is smart. Spending is fun but dangerous. And somewhere far off in the future, if you're lucky and careful, you might retire comfortably. Under this belief system, money is treated like a finish line. You work toward it, you receive it, and then it's gone, spent on rent, groceries, bills, maybe a vacation if you're lucky. The cycle resets every single month. Notice something about this mindset. Money is always moving in one direction, from your hands, out into the world. It arrives and it leaves. Arrives and leaves. This is the paycheck-to-paycheck loop, and it doesn't just affect people who are broke. It affects people earning six figures too, because the loop isn't really about income. It's about direction. Now here's where it gets interesting. This isn't a lack of intelligence. It's not a lack of effort either. Most people caught in this loop are working incredibly hard. The problem is that hard work was never actually the missing ingredient. The missing ingredient is a completely different relationship with money itself. So what does that different relationship actually look like? Let's use a simple metaphor to understand this. Picture money like water. For most people, money behaves like water poured into a cup with a small hole in the bottom. It comes in and slowly, it leaks right back out. Bills, subscriptions, impulse purchases, lifestyle upgrades. The cup never fully empties in dramatic fashion. It just quietly drains month after month, and somehow there's rarely much left over. Now imagine a different container. Instead of a cup with a hole in it, picture a series of small buckets connected by little channels. Water flows in, but instead of leaking away, it's redirected. Some goes into a bucket labeled expenses, sure. But some flows into another bucket, one that grows things. That bucket might be labeled investments or business or assets. And here's the key part. That second bucket doesn't just hold the water. It uses the water to create more water. This is the fundamental shift. People who build wealth don't just ask, how much money is coming in? They ask, where is this money going, and what is it going to do once it gets there? This leads to a concept that changes everything once you actually understand it. The difference between spending money and directing money. When you spend money, it disappears in exchange for something you consume. A meal, a pair of shoes, a streaming subscription. There's nothing wrong with this. We all need to live, but consumption doesn't produce anything else in return. It's a one-way trip. Directing money is different. When money is directed into something like an investment, a skill, or a small income-producing asset, it doesn't just disappear. It starts working. It becomes a tiny employee that doesn't need sleep, doesn't ask for a raise, and doesn't complain about Mondays. It just quietly works in the background, generating a little more value over time. Here's a simple example. Let's say two people each receive an unexpected $1,000. Person A sees it as extra spending money. Maybe new clothes, maybe a nice dinner out, maybe just absorbed into daily expenses without much thought. Within a few weeks, the $1,000 is gone, and life looks exactly the same as before, except now there's a slightly nicer wardrobe or a few good memories. Person B sees that same $1,000 differently. They think, what can this become? Maybe it goes into a simple index fund. Maybe it funds a small side skill or tool that helps them earn more later. Maybe it becomes the seed for a tiny business idea. A year later, that $1,000 might have grown a little, or it might have helped create a new stream of income entirely. Same amount of money, same starting point. Two completely different outcomes, and the difference wasn't luck. It was the mental model running behind the decision. Now here's where we get into the real psychology, the part most people never talk about. Wealthy people don't actually think about money as money the way most people do. They think about money as a tool for buying time, freedom, and options. Most people are taught that money buys things. A car, a house, a vacation. But people who build long-term wealth start to see money differently. They see it as something that can buy back their future hours. Every dollar that gets directed into something productive is essentially a tiny vote for a future where they have to trade less of their personal time for income. This creates a completely different emotional relationship with spending. For someone caught in the traditional mindset, spending money feels good in the moment because it's a reward. You worked hard, you deserve this, so you spend it and feel a little burst of relief and satisfaction. This is deeply human, and there's nothing shameful about it. Our brains are wired to seek immediate rewards. It's part of how we survived for thousands of years by prioritizing food and safety, right now over uncertain benefits later. But wealthy people train themselves to override that instinct in one specific area. When it comes to certain amounts of money, they feel a similar reward, but instead of getting it from buying an item, they get it from watching a number grow, or watching a system get slightly stronger. The dopamine hit shifts from spending to building. This is a subtle but massive psychological shift. It's the difference between short-term relief and long-term identity. Here's another layer to this. Many people believe that rich people are simply naturally good at controlling their urges, that they have superhuman discipline the rest of us don't have. But that's not quite accurate. What actually happens is that they've restructured their environment and habits so that good financial decisions require less willpower, not more. For example, instead of relying on willpower every single month to decide whether or not to save money, many financially successful people set up automatic systems. Money moves into savings or investments the moment it arrives, before it ever touches their everyday spending account. This removes the emotional decision entirely. There's no daily battle of should I save this or spend it, because the decision was already made once, automatically, in advance. This is a powerful psychological trick. It's not about having more self-control. It's about needing less self-control in the first place, because the system does the discipline part for you. So what does this actually mean for you? In real everyday life? It doesn't mean you need to become a different person overnight, or suddenly stop enjoying your money. It means shifting a few key questions in your mind. Instead of asking, how much money did I make this month? Start asking, where did that money go? And did any of it go towards something that can grow? Even a small percentage counts. This isn't about depriving yourself. It's about making sure some portion of every dollar that enters your life is planted somewhere, instead of every single dollar being consumed. Instead of relying on willpower to save, try building a small automatic system. Even a tiny automatic transfer the moment your paycheck arrives can start rewiring the pattern, because it removes the daily decision entirely. And maybe most importantly, start viewing money less as a reward for the past, and more as a tool for the future. That new pair of shoes feels good today, but a small investment, consistently made, becomes a version of you 5 or 10 years from now who has more freedom, more options, and less financial stress. This shift doesn't happen overnight. Nobody wakes up one day and instantly starts thinking like a wealthy person. It happens slowly, through small repeated decisions, the same way a river slowly carves a canyon, one small consistent motion at a time. So the next time money lands in your hands, whether it's your paycheck, a bonus, or even just a few unexpected extra dollars, pause for a second and ask yourself a simple question. Is this going to leak out of the cup? Or is it going to be redirected into something that grows? That single moment of awareness, repeated over and over across months and years, is really the entire difference between the two ways people relate to money. It was never about being born into wealth, or getting lucky, or having some rare talent for numbers. It was about learning to see the same dollar differently than everyone else does. And once you start seeing it that way, you can't really unsee it again.